Welcome to Englewood After Dark Episode 4, Dead Guy Unboxing. Englewood After Dark is a serialized horror audio drama, and for the best experience, we recommend starting with Episode 1. Content warnings for this episode include discussions of murder, jump scares, and on-screen kidnapping. Hey there, intrepid mystery lovers, and welcome back to a very special episode of Englewood After Dark.
Hey.
Give me a moment to kick things off, Carmen. I'll let you introduce yourself in just a minute.
Sorry, Evie. I guess I'm just excited.
Well, I'm glad somebody is enthusiastic about being here, and I appreciate you for that. Faithful listeners, tonight is a very interesting episode of Englewood After Dark, as many of you may have noticed from our changing cast. As always, I'm Eve Pemberley, your host and queen.
All shall love you and despair.
Truly, and this is my trusty sidekick for the night, Carmen, a lovable puppy with a heart of gold and a hunting knife strapped to her lap.
Woof. Always be prepared, kids.
Carmen, as you can see, has many qualities that Finn lacks, such as the ability to answer her phone, the ability to wake up on time, the ability to respond to my messages, the ability to handle commitments.
I also make a great carbonara. I'm first aid certified. I know exactly how hard to hit a person to knock them unconscious without killing them. And I'm great with kids. Those last 2 points are unrelated, by the by.
In short, Carmen is a functional human being who can make plans and follow through.
Sorry, folks. Eve is having a bad time tonight. Finn has been ghosting her all day and hasn't shown up tonight.
Oh yeah, he's out cold.
Fucking idiot. Let's move, man, before someone sees.
You want to pick his heavy ass up then?
You kidding me? If I get injured before the game, Coach will kill me.
Idiots! Help me load him in this.
This is such a fucking stupid plan.
I'll let you tell Clayton that, shall I?
I told you. Something must have come up. Probably rushed off and forgot his phone. Wouldn't be the first time.
I'm not angry that he's not here. Well, not much. I'm angry that he's being careless. Leaving his phone behind is so like him, but whatever. That doesn't matter at this point. You and I are here, so let's get this show on the road. Woo! Dearest listeners, I'm pleased to inform you that I wasn't lying when I said tonight is a very special episode. Carmen and I come bearing a smorgasbord of gifts.
A smorgasbord?
Listeners may remember, last episode I was charged with hunting down and making contact with CJ Briggs. That's where Carmen came in.
I can track a person by scent. Like a bloodhound. I followed the book smell back to his home on the other side of the country.
Really?
Fine. So, I'm a med student. My dad's background is in intelligence gathering, and Mum's a lawyer. So, I got the lowdown and some really useful skills. Basically, that means I'm really good at finding shit out about people. Like an internet bloodhound.
In essence, don't piss her off. Carmen and I launched a two-pronged attack against Briggs in our search for answers. I fought his publisher, and Carmen cross-referenced what we knew about Briggs and searched for clues to his identity.
Yeah, because if I'm about to write a controversial manifesto about some horrible unsolved murders, I'm definitely going to put my real name on the cover. Pro tip, listeners, always use an alias and never put your real name on the internet. It'll keep you safe years down the line. My name isn't even Carmen. I'm actually a middle-aged man from Moscow.
I can vouch for Vladimir's wisdom on the subject. Anyway, Briggs's publisher stubbornly continued to stonewall my investigation, but I did bait them into giving me some little tidbits, small, seemingly trivial details about Briggs's life, unimportant stuff.
Unimportant unless you are Vladimir, master hacker of the KGBs. Trivial details go a long way if you're sneaky. But cross-referencing isn't as exciting as CSI makes it look, so won't bore you with the details.
As Carmen immediately suspected, CJ Briggs isn't the author's real name. It's a pseudonym he uses for his work, which made tracking him a little more difficult.
Not difficult enough, Briggs.
Carmen hit our big break. His real name, Marshall Moore. And that brought us to our second revelation.
He's super dead.
And he has been for a while now. Not that his publisher was willing to mention as much. So, with Briggs dead and in no condition to provide us with answers,
We found his house and heisted the place.
No, we didn't do that. Though we didn't not do that. Once we discovered Moore's home address, we had enough information to discover another opportunity. Moore's estate sale.
3 days ago.
So, Carmen and I did the only thing a pair of upstanding investigators could do. We took a road trip to Moore's estate sale.
And we got loot. Fuck yeah.
Exhibit A, photography. A USB 2.0 flash drive containing 200 megabytes of digital images, and a small stack of actual physical photographs.
Hey, nice composition, Moore. Oh, she's cute. Ooh, I love her bracelet too. Bronze takes a bit of care to keep it from tarnishing, but it's lovely if you're a careful owner.
Ignore her. She's distracted by shiny objects. Like a tiny dragon. From the look of it, Moore was a bit of an amateur photographer. There's a lot of images in here. Some of the later images from 2010 abouts, and you can recognize Englewood campus. Though a lot of pictures are taken at night. And look, that's the corner store just south of campus, but a lot of them I don't recognize.
Big Caribbean vibes.
Yeah, a lot of these places could be the lair of a slasher movie villain. Where is Finn when I need him to act out serial killer? I can't believe this.
And then Exhibit B, newspaper clippings.
Yeah. We've actually been reading a lot of Moore's articles as research for the show. The guy was a reporter first, a writer for the Herald, that's Englewood's local paper for all those joining us from elsewhere. He even worked on the Englewood edition back when he went to school here.
Okay, Evie, let's maybe wrap up the small stuff here and unwrap the big stuff. I've got the fun box right here with Moore's smorgasbord of secrets. You cut that open and I'll handle the outbreak.
Is it done?
We got him up to the farm.
That almost sounds like insubordination, Presser.
No, it's nothing, Megas.
It had better be nothing, Presser. The success of this little operation, it's on your head.
Yes, Megas. Understood.
Hey, even Finn. Just a friendly reminder. When walking at night, make sure to stick to the streets and other well-lit areas.
What the fuck?
Should I stop?
The world is full of alleys and dark places where you might lose your footing. And it's easy to miss a hard edge in the dark. Try not to slip and fall. Someone might hear you.
Well, that was creepy.
Figures. We give people the option to leave anonymous comments, and they decide to be cryptic and threatening with it.
I know that having students spam your inbox is annoying. But at least you have some idea of where the messages came from. Anyone can just wander onto campus and stuff a letter in that box, and you've got no way of knowing who it is.
Honestly, I think Finn sees that as a plus. Did you hear how excited he got to getting a sponsor? Imagine how excited he would be if the podcast had a genuine stalker.
Yes, the mark of every good podcast. Obsessive stalkers. There's got to be a better way of measuring success.
Just another thing to discuss with Finn when we're done with recording, I guess. Anyway, moving on from that, back to the whole CJ Briggs debacle.
It's a debacle now?
CJ Briggs might be dead, but he's not gone. Not really. We have CJ Briggs's first draft manuscript of Blood-Soaked Soil. What button were you trying to hit?
Audience Rex and all?
Much better. And might I say, I thought the finished draft of Blood-Soaked Soil was a brick, but this thing, well, just listen to this. I didn't even hold it that high up, and yet I'm scared if I drop it from any higher, I'll disturb a fault line or something.
Must be something in there that's useful.
Right? Even holding it is giving me a headache. I'm just surprised at how much he cut.
Well, he is a debut author. I imagine his publisher forced him to stay in a certain word count.
Yes, but even with as many cuts that might have needed to be made, he really should have made room for some of this.
Like what kind of things?
Well, if I was told I had to cut down on my word count, I would be doing my best to ensure that I shorten the information I have, summarize it, before I go ripping out entire sections of the book.
I'm guessing Briggs did not opt for that method?
He did not. The guy just grabbed a pair of scissors and removed entire important chapters. Like, you know how Finn and I have been theorizing that there might have been an accomplice? Well, so did Briggs.
How could you leave out the possibility of another killer? One that's still on the loose, I might add.
Right? I mean, Briggs even went and discussed the same possibilities that we did. Theorized about a partner. Thought about how they might have killed Schmidt, and because he was starting to get too reckless. They talked about the wife and best friend and how difficult it would have been to snatch Laura Wilson in the intermission of a stage performance by himself when he only had 5 or 10 minutes tops. It's the same line of thinking.
Did he ever land on a suspect?
Not one in particular, but he did manage to narrow it down, at least in his eyes. First things first, the group of rich kid students that were at the top of his list. The Flies. He had a list of names for these people, and he went digging into them one by one. At one point, he even pitched the idea that maybe all of them had been in on it. Maybe not helping with the murders, but at least aware of the situation and taking advantage of it.
Huh, taking advantage how?
Simple blackmail, really. One of the group finds out that Schmidt is the murderer, and instead of going to the cops, they turned around and said, "Give us something we want, or we'll tell the cops."
Who's willing to let people die for something so superficial as a good grade?
Briggs came to that conclusion eventually as well. It's unlikely that all of them were serial killers, and equally unlikely that they'd allow a serial killer to just keep doing his thing in exchange for an A. So either they're unrelated to the case, or there's a much stronger reason for them to be covering up Schmidt's action.
What else does it say about accomplices?
Well, it meanders a bit. Like Finn said, there were a lot of different suspects during the time of the disappearances. It brings up some other people that seem to be closer to Schmidt. His teaching assistant, Darcy Lucas, philosophy enthusiast, Professor Rebecca Danvers, and some others, but nothing that sticks.
So, another dead end?
Not entirely. Hell, it may be worth trying to get in touch with them if they're willing. We could get a more down-to-earth person to interview regarding Schmidt's change in behavior.
Sounds like a plan. Now, not to sound like Finn, but can we finally move on to the weird stuff?
Go on then.
Oh, I get to present? Lovely. Well, as everyone can imagine, the discovery that Briggs was actually deceased came as a shock. But exactly how he died left us even more confused. First off, it's understandable that the papers reporting his death use his real name and not his pen name. But you'd think that given writing was his profession, they would have mentioned C.J. Briggs in there somewhere.
Right. They don't even mention his previous career as a journalist. Most obituaries covering his death just imply that he was an unemployed hermit living by himself.
We understand that artists rarely get the credit or acclaim they deserve. But frankly, leaving it out entirely is just unacceptable. And that's not even covering how he died. Officially, it's listed as a drug overdose, which, not to lean into stereotypes, but it isn't that hard to believe. Loner, writer, and plenty of free time on his hands. But eventually, we found a more detailed obituary. Marshall Moore died of an overdose over a hypno. It's almost never something someone takes recreationally. One pill to help you sleep if you're actually prescribed it as a sleeping aid, but it's not something you take to get high. Even using it as intended, it's designed to, paralyze you.
Rehypnol again. Can't be a coincidence.
This stuff is really hard to get your hands on. It's 10 times the strength of Valium. They don't exactly give it over the counter. So, if he was planning on killing himself, either he already had it, which is unlikely, or managed to trick a doctor into prescribing it to him after he decided to do it, which I think is even more unlikely. If you down enough of them, over-the-counter sleeping pills or lower-strength prescription sleeping pills work just fine for that. And that still doesn't explain why the papers are saying so little and leaving out the deceased's pen name.
And why hasn't the publishing house capitalized on his death?
Sorry?
Well, when an artist dies, sales of the things they created go through the roof. This is an opportunity to capitalize on that. Sell as many copies of Blood-Soaked Soil as possible. And in our capitalist hellscape of a world, why didn't they take it?
So we're both in agreement that something about this stinks.
Yeah, something is not right about this.
Yeah, information's being withheld here.
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that the police are keeping it out of the news for some reason. I mean, they've been known to keep information private as best they can under certain circumstances, like Schmidt and the lipstick on his victims.
But why?
Well, not to disparage Briggs's fan base, but maybe they were worried that if a bunch of his followers found out about his death, they would hamper the investigation. Maybe call into the police with theories and people trying to play detective.
Sure. That makes sense. But if I might offer an alternative...
Why do I have a bad feeling about this?
Come on now, Eve. At least half your audience is here for the tinfoil hat theory.
No, bad.
You can't stop me. Now, Briggs's death is already a bit sketchy on its own, but if you think back over the list of victims and disappearances you've talked about on the show, there's actually one other person whose circumstances line up with Briggs.
Amber Reed, the girl who disappeared and was found buried out by the farm years after Schmidt had already offed himself?
Exactly. It was the same drug overdose. Rehypnol.
I mean, I guess.
Oh, wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't have more. They both worked for the same newspaper, and Marshall Moore even reported on Amber Reed's death.
Dude, you sound like Finn right now.
Well, picture this. What if Amber Reed wasn't going up to the farm that night to take a trip to Bone Town, as Finn would so eloquently put it? I mean, an urban legend centered in your own town, right by the school no less. That'd be a pretty exciting thing to write about. C.J. Briggs certainly thought so, anyhow.
If you're right, two people both digging into Schmidt, the farm, and the murders of the 1980s both ended up dead by the same means, an overdose of Rehypnol.
I'm merely stating a hypothesis, Evie. It's up to the listeners to determine if this is just too big of a coincidence to believe.
Correlation doesn't always equal causation, though.
Ugh, true. But that's not as fun.
And on that terrifying thought, we'll be right back after this quick break.
Can this be a real ad break this time? And not a spooky threat?
A lost bike posting, I think. I just got an email about it from campus security. This week, we have a lost and found notice from a good Samaritan who found a bike unchained and abandoned and didn't steal it. It is currently in custody of Campus Lost and Found in the Birch Building. If you lost your red and blue BMX bike somewhere in the region of the back building last night, you should go and retrieve it from campus security.
What's wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like Finn lost his bike?
I mean, it was a pretty generic description, right?
Yeah, but he's also the exact person who would leave his bike unchained and completely forget about it.
Oh, like that time he left his wallet in our room and went to go pick up the pizzas?
Or the time he went back to the lecture theatre to grab his bag and returned with a slice of cake and not the bag he forgot.
Maybe we can swing by the dome after this and ask him.
And kick his ass for missing the recording session. Who are you texting?
I'm just letting Seb know that you're coming to kick Finn's ass and that he should run.
Bitch.
Head bitch in charge. Address me by my full title or not at all.
Can you switch it to Do Not Disturb?
Yeah, sorry.
Well, we have that to look forward to, but back to business at hand. I wish we knew more about Amber and what she was working on before her death. If your theory is true, it could blow this thing wide open.
We'd need to find Amber's old computer, or notebooks, or something. Otherwise, this is all just supposition. Although, you do make me wonder about the accomplice.
Yeah, what if Schmidt's original accomplice or accomplices killed Amber?
Great minds think alike. The person who killed Amber knew a lot about the original crime.
And if Amber had maybe made the connection herself, that might lead the accomplice right to her door to stop it before the truth came out.
Which would mean that whoever the accomplice is, they were someone on campus at the time of the original murders and at the time of Amber's death. That would have to narrow it down, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly something to look into.
Something is definitely going on here. I mean, there are too many coincidences to ignore, dude.
I thought you put that on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, I did. Repeated calls can still get through, though.
Who was it?
Seb. But he knows we're recording, so I just rejected it.
Maybe turn it off, just in case he doesn't figure it out?
Sure, done.
What were we talking about?
Coincidences. And how there couldn't possibly be this many. If you think about it, this whole thing could be a cover-up.
For what?
Well, that's the question. But it's been bugging me this whole time. What if someone was using the farm as a scapegoat for their own crimes? Like it was a convenient patsy. It ties in nicely with our theory that maybe Amber was onto something about someone, and she needed to go.
But now you don't think it's connected to the original murders.
Maybe not. Which would mean it's more likely connected to the flies. They're the ones who had access to Schmidt.
If the flies killed Amber, they might have tried to make it look like Schmidt's ghost to throw off suspicion.
But that would throw suspicion onto themselves, surely.
Not really. Who knows about them? Briggs, who didn't include it in the book, and Burning Bridges, who only mentioned it offhand in a forum post. Until recently, until we started the podcast, nobody knew.
You better hope they're not avid podcast listeners.
Haha, that was a very long time ago. No way they're still around.
That you know of.
If you just keep digging, eventually you'll uncover conspiracies and cover-ups galore. Shit!
Seb, what the fuck? We're recording.
Yeah, well, stop. Finn's fucking gone.
Gone? What do you mean, gone? I thought he'd done an all-nighter again and slept through.
And I thought he was crashing with you two.
When did you see him last?
2 nights ago. You?
2 days ago. He said he was investigating another lead.
Is this because of your dumb fucking cold case?
I don't know, Seb. I'm just telling you what happened. Stop fucking yelling at me.
Shit, the bike.
Shit, the bike. Come on, let's go.
So long. Farewell. And remember, poking your nose where it doesn't belong is a recipe for disaster.
You just finished listening to Englewood After Dark Episode 4, starring Dennis Altman as Finn Nightingale, Hannah Brown as Eve Pemberley, Mars Dizon as Carmen Ferran, CJ McCauley as Sebastian Westwick, Arden Shane as the Magus, JJ and Joel Butler as our kidnappers, and Osty Hobbs as Charles Huntington III. On-air music was provided by Ethan, and opening music by Nicholas Gasparini. Written and sound design by Hannah Brown, Dennis Altman, and A. Rose. Find out more on our website at englewoodafterdark.com.